Would you say you are an optimistic person, or would you say you are a pessimistic person? I want to talk about optimism and pessimism in this video, but before I do that, I want to give you guys an update on how I've been doing with the mental health challenge over the past few days. If you guys didn't know, the month of May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and I posted the last couple of videos on my channel here where I've talked about the fact that over the course of this month, I want to be doing things every single day, like exercising, meditating, sleeping good, eating good. I want to do all these different things that are going to boost my mood and improve my mental health. And I'm sort of doing this sort of as a lead by example sort of thing because I want you guys to also try your best to improve your mental health. So let me know in the comments if you guys have been doing things this month. Maybe you've been participating in this challenge alongside me. Let me know if you guys have been doing things to improve your mental health over the past few days. And if you have, whether you're doing this challenge or not over this month like me, let me know in the comments what you've done the past few days that has been good for your mental health. Maybe an activity that you've done, maybe you've done some exercise, maybe you have meditated, maybe you've done, if you haven't done those things, I want to encourage you guys over the next few days because I'm doing this challenge to do things with me over this month to improve your mental health. So leave a comment, either what you've done over the past few days, or leave a comment and let me know what you should be doing or what you could be doing to improve your mental health, because I'm trying to keep myself accountable in these videos. I will be posting a video basically every 3 days, giving you an update on how I'm doing. I want to keep myself accountable to you guys. So for example, I've been doing pretty good on the exercising, and I've been doing pretty good on everything else. The one thing that I'm not doing good at is I skipped meditation yesterday, and a few days ago as well I skipped meditation. So I need to get better at making sure I actually sit down and meditate. I actually really enjoy meditating because it sort of gets me in this zone of like well, I mean, kind of speaking of optimism and pessimism, which I'm going to get to here in a second, like I'm not worried about things. I'm not thinking about the future. I'm not thinking about the past. I'm trying to just sort of sit and just be present in the moment and just sort of, just sort of to be there and sort of, I don't know, just sort of your mind kind of goes to a calming, peaceful place. And it's very refreshing to meditate. Even though I don't always know if I'm doing it correctly. I don't know if there is, I don't know enough about meditation to like teach it or anything, but I really find that meditation does help me and it gets me in a good place. So I want to go ahead and just end my sort of update with you guys there. Like basically there's not really much to say, but I do feel better after a week of doing this challenge in this mental health challenge in May. Over the past week, I have been feeling better, and my body feels a lot better by working out and exercising and stuff. And I do feel a boost in my mood. And I've been basically trying to take care of myself mentally, and it's great, But there's really not much more to talk about. So again, please leave a comment on the video and let me know sort of if you guys are doing anything as well. So with that being said, let's talk about optimism and pessimism. This sort of came up because I was listening to a podcast and they talked about it, and then I watched it was weird. I watched another video, a random video, and after watching this podcast, and like I saw two things in the same day that both of them were talking about optimism and pessimism, and that got me thinking about optimism and pessimism, because optimism is sort of this belief that you sort of believe that things are going to work out or things are going to go well in the future. Pessimism is the opposite. Pessimism, you sort of feel like things are not going to go well in the future. Things are not going to work out. And this kind of ties in with what I was talking about a few days ago on the channel in my last video, where I talked about myself feeling hopeless. A lot of hopelessness, feeling like no matter what I do, I'm going to fail. No matter what, I'm going to mess things up. Sort of a pessimistic attitude. So I want to talk a little bit about having personal optimism for yourself, because if you have optimism, you see, I think there's pluses and minuses. There's positive pros and cons for being optimistic and being pessimistic. Being pessimistic, it might give you a little bit of caution going into things. Being pessimistic, I mean, there might be there's probably not a lot of good that comes from pessimism, but it gets you prepared for the worst, and that can't necessarily be a bad thing, but it does provide a lot of, I would say, anxiety for the future, constantly thinking about the future going bad. Whereas an optimist, sort of just isn't really focused on the future so much. You know, if you're really optimistic about things, you're not wondering what's going to happen. You're just going with the flow. You know, you might just live your life and say, yeah, I think the best thing that's going to happen is going to happen for me. And I feel like that sort of optimistic attitude, that mindset, that almost blind optimism, is it bad? I mean, maybe it makes you a little bit overconfident. Maybe it makes you not ready for the worst things when they do happen. That could be the downside of optimism. But it does seem like if you're optimistic, it's going to give you more of that happy feeling, that joyfulness, that just sort of, you know, that blissfulness that you might have, where it's like you're not overly concerned about what's going to happen, you know? And you could argue that, well, I mean, it's definitely true that there's a lot of people, maybe the majority of people are pessimistic about the future of the world, because if you look at just sort of what human beings are doing to the environment, or the fact that a lot of governments, politicians and things, people that control the world, essentially, you could say, not really control the world, I don't know how else to put it. The people that are running governments, you could say there's a lot of corruption there, and you could say that makes you pessimistic about the future. People don't know how to. You can be pessimistic about humanity for sure. Like, I think that there's a lot of reasons why you could be, and maybe people are justifiably pessimistic about the future of humanity. So maybe the positive side of that is that shows that you care. If you're pessimistic about humanity, you could say, well, that means that you care about the world. That means that you care about yourself. You care about the future, and that the fact that you don't see things going well means that you actually want what's good for the world. It's just that you just feel like things are not going in that direction, you know? So I think that no matter whether you're optimistic or whether you're pessimistic, I think that either way, generally this means that you have an attitude, which is that you want the best for yourself, or you want the best for humanity. Now, I want to focus right here on optimism and pessimism psychologically for you as an individual when it comes to thinking about yourself and your own life. I don't really want to spend too much time talking about humanity and, you know, whatever. I don't really have a lot to say about that stuff, but your attitude, if you have a positive attitude, if you have an optimistic attitude, it might allow you to be more resilient. It might allow you to not give up. See, like, because there might be, if you're pessimistic, you might have this confirmation bias, which is, okay, you think things are going to go wrong. You think nothing's going to work out. You think you're going to fail, blah, 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 all these things. So then what might happen is the moment you're faced with one little tiny bit of a hurdle, some sort of obstacle that gets in your way, something just slightly goes wrong, that just isn't the best thing for you. If you're pessimistic, you might fall into this trap of saying, see, I knew it. One little thing went wrong. I knew it. Nothing's gonna work out. Everything's gonna be terrible. I think that's the problem with pessimism, is seeing your own confirmation bias and giving up before you start something, giving up before you even try. That's the downside of hopelessness, right? I think that I don't know, like, what would be the downside of optimism? See, I didn't really start this video being fully prepared. Everything I'm saying to you guys is coming off the top of my head right now. So it's not like I wrote out a script for this or anything. So let me think right now. What is the benefit of optimism? Now, it makes you more resilient, right? So you're not going to give into that. You're not going to give into that sort of giving up too early because something goes wrong. Optimism, it gives you hope for yourself, right? So if you have hope for yourself, if you believe that things will go well for you, if you believe things will get better for you, you're more likely to try things, right? You're more likely to give things a go, try new things. You're not gonna just necessarily sit around all day like me and do nothing. You know, you're actually gonna be like, oh no, I want to improve myself. I want to be healthier. I want to, you know, work harder. I want to do all these things, you know, and so you're more likely to do that sort of thing. Now, what about a pessimist? What is the positive of being pessimistic? I already kind of gave one sort of example of like, okay, you're going to be more cautious. A pessimist might they might be more in tune with the negative emotions that they might feel, the negative thoughts they might feel. And so a pessimist can maybe find flaws, they can be critical when somebody has a great idea. Oh, I'm gonna change the world. I'm gonna do this for the world. I'm gonna make it. Pessimists might say, hold on a minute. How do you really think you're gonna do that? How do you really think you're gonna make a difference? You know, you're not. You know, a pessimist will say, you're not gonna do that. You know, and it rethinks how you go about actually making positive change happen. See, this is the thing. You cannot let the pessimism override the way that we see. Human beings, we have a way of making things happen. We find a way, right? We find a way to change our reality into something better. So I would say the one thing about pessimism is you can't let your pessimism prevent you from finding the how it is that you're going to improve, how it is that you're going to change, how you're going to make your life better, how you're going to make the life for others better. You can't let the pessimism prevent you from finding the how. Now, maybe a little bit of pessimism balances out things in a way where you can be critical, you can find flaws in your plans. Maybe that's a good thing, right? I don't know if necessarily, I don't know if pessimism is the same thing as, you know, being able to find flaws and being able to, I don't know if it's a synonym for, you know, the exact same thing as like being able to be critical of something, but they certainly go hand in hand, it feels like. But it does feel like there's either way, right? So this pessimism versus optimism, it is the approach you take to the future. Now, I do think it's possible to not be constantly thinking about the future. In fact, you could argue that this is the goal of meditation. You could argue that this is the goal of a lot of mindful practices, which is to live in the moment, right? People always say you should live in the moment, you should be in the here and now, right? So if you are an optimist, maybe you're thinking about the future. If you're a pessimist, maybe you're thinking about the future too much, versus just like being the best you can be at every single moment, or just enjoying this moment, you know? If I am truly here right now, if I'm truly mentally sort of focused on just being myself in this moment, if I'm truly focused on making the best of who I am right now and the world around me, caring for myself, caring for the world around me, you know, I don't have to have any sort of attitude, positive or negative, optimistic or pessimistic. I don't have to have an attitude about the future because I'm just here. I'm just living. I'm just existing now, and I'm just being, you know, and just being, you know, is, I think, the goal of a lot. I mean, I think this is sort of like an idea that's present in a lot of philosophies and even like Buddhism, things like that. I mean, like just being, you know, and so when it comes to optimism and pessimism, it's only when you start imagining the future, right? It's when you sit there and you sit there and you try to think of what the future is going to hold. Do you know what the future is going to hold? You don't. You have no idea. You have no idea what's going to happen. So trying to predict the future, if you try to predict the future, you might, you know, come up with something that's a good scenario or a bad scenario. And that's probably what leads you to feeling optimism versus pessimism, right? Like you're going to feel one or the other. But if you don't try to predict the future, if you don't sit there in your head wondering what's going to happen, or, you know, then you just get to live life. And that's the other thing, is like how much of our suffering, how much of how we feel at any given moment comes from thinking about the future and it being pessimistic about it. Like, doesn't that cause you suffering? Doesn't it cause you suffering to think everything's going to be terrible? Because you can be sad in the moment. You can that can frustrate you so much if you just sit here. If you just sit here, right, and you think about the world's just terrible and my life is terrible and nothing's going to get better, isn't that like a form of suffering? Right? Isn't that a form of like it feels like optimism is sort of this is gonna come in and save the day. You know, optimism I feel like is in some sense like the antidote to, you know, feeling that way and suffering. I feel like optimism is such a good thing to have, you know, because it prevents you from feeling like hopeless, and it prevents you from feeling like the future is just like the future doesn't exist yet. You know what I mean? And so you know, and then there again, going back to the sort of confirmation bias thing, like if you are a pessimistic person and something bad happens, you're just going to say, oh yeah, see, I knew that was going to happen, right? And it's going to make it feel a lot worse. Whereas if you're an optimist and something bad happens, it feels like you're going to be like, wow, that really sucks. I didn't see that one coming. That really puts me back a little bit. That's a hard thing to deal with, you know? But if you have a good attitude about it, if you're an optimist, you're going to say, well, let's figure out what to do with this. Let's figure out how to turn this bad thing around. Let's figure out how to not let this bad moment ruin my day, ruin my life, you know? That's the advantage of being optimistic, right? Is being able to find, I think either way, whether you're an optimist or you're a pessimist, I think you are a problem solver. I mean, I know I'm presenting this in a way like you're either an optimist or you're a pessimist. The truth is that you're probably both, right? You're both capable of being optimistic, and you're capable of being pessimistic. I think for me, certainly, that's the case. It depends on what we're talking about. Some things I would say I'm more of a pessimist. Some things I would say I'm more of an optimist. I would say, again, it kind of just depends on your mood, right? If you're in a good mood, you're feeling good, you might be an optimist. If you're having a bad day, things are going bad for you, you might say, yeah, I'm a pessimist right now. But I think that both of these things relate to the future. Both of these things relate to how willing we are to overcome problems that we face. I think both of these things relate to wanting the best for ourselves and trying to problem solve things. But a pessimist, unfortunately, might always find a reason why something might not work. And that's the thing, is you don't want to have that attitude. If you're trying to problem solve, if you're trying to improve yourself, I think you don't want to have that attitude, which is that no matter what you do, it's not going to work. Because if you have that attitude, that's sort of mindset, I think, can only lead to either inaction, not doing anything, or that can only lead to never improving, you know, because you never want to take a step. You never want to try something out because you think the outcome is predetermined. That's, I think, the worst thing about being a pessimist. Optimist, again, I said this earlier, an optimist is going to be more resilient. You're going to try more things. You're going to do more. And I think that at the end of the day, the more you try, the more chances you have for making good things happen in your life. So I think what I've just worked out, and again, this isn't anything crazy, right? I'm not sharing any sort of new revolutionary idea here, but I think what I just worked out is that optimism is better than pessimism. That you want to be an optimist. How do you become an optimist versus a pessimist? I don't know. But it's got to be a philosophical change in your mind. You have to have a mindset shift. You have to actually want, I don't know. Like you have to get to a place where maybe you're not thinking about the future too much. Like, how much does an optimist really think about the future? You know? Most people that are optimists are probably people that don't think about the future at all. So when you ask them about the future, they're like, oh, I don't know. I didn't really think about it. Probably going to be fine though, right? isn't that kind of the case? Like people are like, oh yeah, probably gonna be fine, right? Now you might think, well, that's stupid. If you're smart, you would be a little bit pessimistic about things. I think pessimistic people are kind of like the skeptics of the world, the people that don't really believe things just because somebody says it, right? You can say that everything's going to be good in the future, but that doesn't mean it's going to happen, right? That's not a bad attitude necessarily, but again, when does pessimism become too much? When does it prevent you from trying and taking action? And at what point is pessimism not a good thing for you? I don't know. Again, guys, I didn't make a script for the video. I didn't think through all these things ahead of time. I don't think I have much more to share with you guys right now, so I am going to end the video here. But just is there anything that I said here that makes any sense, or am I just rambling and I don't know? Am I not really hitting the point? Is there something valuable here in discussing pessimism versus optimism, and what is that thing that's valuable, or is this all for nothing? I don't know. Maybe if you're a pessimistic person, if you're a pessimist, you're going to think, Kenny, you're wasting our time. If you're an optimistic person, you might say, you know what? I'm going to take this information and I'm going to try to be a more optimistic person. That's going to make me a better person in the future. All of us have different mindsets. All of us have different views on the future and whatnot. But I think I'm going to try, first of all, I need to meditate more, but I think it's going to put me in the present moment more. It's going to focus my mind on the here and now, and I'm not going to think about the future too much. And I don't know. It's probably my goal is to not care so much about the future. Well, I don't know. I don't know how good that is, but I don't know. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video.